Today, we're going to talk about the price action that we've been seeing in the cryptocurrency market over the past week or so. And as you can see from these mini price graphs, it's been phenomenal. Across the board, cryptocurrencies have been going up. Bitcoin has been doing quite well, which has obviously been taking the majority of the headlines. But the major story here is how altcoins have been performing. And you can see that in the change in Bitcoin dominance that we've seen over the past 2 weeks. So I wanted to briefly talk about in this particular video, where are we at in terms of the cycle? Are we going into an altcoin cycle? Has the Bitcoin cycle ended? And how I feel that you should position yourself and where you should be looking for opportunities. So if we go over to CoinMarketCap's Bitcoin dominance chart, you can see just how rapidly Bitcoin dominance has fell. Back at the beginning of April, we were at 45%. And now we are sitting at 37%. So this has been a very rapid decline in Bitcoin dominance. And most of that has actually been coming from this others section, which is basically all of the cryptocurrencies past the top 10 for the most part. So it's the smaller altcoins. And if we look at the previous altcoin cycle, you can see that we peaked at roughly 25% dominance for the others or the smaller altcoins. So we're reaching that peak that we had in the previous altcoin cycle. And I find this interesting because we reached that very rapidly. And I don't know at this point in time if we are going to continue to see that other section continue to appreciate in dominance, or if we are going to see a slight rebound in Bitcoin dominance as maybe this move was a little bit too quick. And at this stage, I would wait to see what happens. Personally, that's what I would do. There is still opportunities within the major altcoins. You can see that obviously if most of the dominance change has been the result of others going up, then that means then that the major altcoins aren't as high a level as they were back here. And so that suggests that there might be some upside opportunity in those particular cryptocurrencies. But what concerns me a little bit with this particular altcoin shift that we've been seeing so far is, number one, the volume is not as high as it was in the previous altcoin cycle. You can kind of see that visually here back in December and January, just how high it was. Although it is worth noting, of course, that a lot of that has to do with the fact that Bitcoin was so much more valuable back then, so that the US dollar volume seems like it's higher, but the nominal amount of coins that were actually exchanged may not be that much higher. I don't know if that made sense. I'm hoping that it did for a lot of you. But overall, what we're really looking to see is that this volume continues to increase, and that supports the general trend going or becoming a little bit more bullish. And that's really what a shift into altcoins represents. An altcoin shift represents more risk on trading, which represents more confidence in the market, which overall suggests that we might be going into the second leg of this particular bull market. And I think that's very possible. I mentioned previously that I felt that the bubble wasn't popping before when we went from 20,000 down to 6,000. And the reason I felt that way is because a lot of people missed out on the opportunity to partake in the first bull run that we saw. A lot of people didn't know about Bitcoin, or when they finally found out about Bitcoin, they felt that it had appreciated a little bit too quickly. It felt too expensive for them. And as a result of that, maybe they didn't partake. So I felt that there was a lot of money on the sidelines that was waiting to get involved, and I think that money is going to get involved in this particular bull run that we seem to be moving into right now. I think there are a lot of people that have a fear of missing out on this particular bull run, and as a result of that, they're going to deploy that capital that they didn't have the chance to in the previous one this time around, and it should be interesting to see what happens. In the short term here, I wouldn't be that surprised to see Bitcoin dominance. One of two things is going to happen. Either it's going to continue to fall and go into that lower 30% range again, like it was back in the previous altcoin cycle. And if that happens, it's probably going to happen fairly rapidly. The alternative situation is we see it slowly come back up to 40% or so, as maybe this move from the smaller altcoins has been a little bit too quick, and we might start to see them kind of stagnate against Bitcoin as Bitcoin continues to go up. So I wouldn't be surprised to see either direction happen. I think it's a little bit more likely we see the Bitcoin dominance come up maybe to that 40% or so. And then I think we're going to move a little bit stronger into a full altcoin cycle. So that's my overall opinion. I think it's a little bit more likely that Bitcoin dominance goes up to 40%, then goes back down to those lower 30% range or so, rather than continuing to the decline. But of course, I could be completely wrong on that, especially because some of the major altcoins aren't back at where they were during the previous altcoin cycle. And I think most notably among them is Ethereum, right? During the previous altcoin cycle, Ethereum was trading at 10 million Satoshi. It's currently at 7.5 million Satoshi. So it should be interesting to see whether or not moving forward, the major altcoins are able to recover against Bitcoin, right? Ripple is also below 10,000 Satoshi still. It was much higher than that back in its previous altcoin cycle, and so on and so forth. There are some exceptions within the major cryptocurrencies and some warnings that I would want to provide in terms of what to stay away from. I would be very cautious when it comes to EOS. A lot of excitement has been going into EOS over the launch of the mainnet that's going to be coming in June, on June 2nd. A lot of times, this is a little bit too far away, right? We're on April 24th right now. I think that's a little too far away for the market. I think the market is a little too impatient. So I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of excitement over that launch. And then, people are going to realize it's over a month away, which is a long time in the cryptocurrency world. And then we're going to see maybe EOS stagnate a little bit in Satoshi levels, maybe see yet another pump right before the launch, or maybe like a week or two before the launch. And then I don't know what's going to happen post-launch. I really don't. Most of the time when there's an anticipated event in the cryptocurrency space, we see a sell-off after that event. Usually everybody buys up going into the event and then they sell out after the event. So it should be interesting to see what happens with that. But personally, that's not my type of trade. If you are somebody that's more into that momentum event style type of trading, if you're somebody that, for example, in stocks, maybe you like trading based off of earnings, then that's the exact type of thing that EOS is right now. And personally, not for me, but I would err on the side of caution if I were to try to take that trade in particular. Okay. You also have Bitcoin Cash that has been doing fairly well recently. I think it's been the top performer among most cryptocurrencies over the past 2 weeks or so. And I actually want to make a video here shortly going into Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash. You guys already know my opinion for the most part when it comes to the investing perspective of things. I think it's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin Cash to ever compete with Bitcoin when it comes to exchange support, when it comes to merchant support, so on and so forth, just because of the branding issues. But I really would like to make a video that talks about maybe a little bit of the philosophy behind the two of them, because I think this is becoming a clash that's becoming very important again. All of a sudden, people are starting to talk about it a little bit more. Every single time that Bitcoin Cash pumps, all of a sudden that, philosophical, psychological debate that goes on in terms of how to scale Bitcoin, what is the true vision, the morality of Blockstream and so on and so forth. All of that starts to surface again. And I think it's getting to the point where it's worth issuing a sequel on Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash. So look forward to that in the future. Overall here, Dash had a huge pump, or I shouldn't say huge pump. It kind of went along with most of the other cryptocurrencies. But in my last video, I talked about potentially wanting to buy into this because it was trading at a relatively low Satoshi level. And every single time it's come down to roughly this level before, it always bounces back fairly quickly. And that's exactly what we had happen here. And at this point, I would start considering taking profits if you partaked, or participated rather, partaked. If you participated in that particular trade, I would at this point start taking profits or considering that, especially as we start getting into those upper 6 million Satoshi range, which can have some serious resistance. So I just wanted to provide a brief update on that. And then lastly here in this particular video, I kind of wanted to give some general advice here in terms of I would stay away from some of the smaller altcoins in general because they have appreciated greatly against Bitcoin. I would wait for a little bit more confirmation that we're moving into a full altcoin cycle. I do think we are towards the end of a Bitcoin cycle, by the way. I don't really think I said that fully at any point in this video. I don't think 50% market dominance is going to happen anymore. I think that if we are moving into a bull cycle at this point, it's going to be very difficult for risky traders to want to buy Bitcoin when it's so much more boring than altcoins. But in general here, I would stay cautious of the smaller altcoins until we have a little bit more confirmation that we're going full swing into an altcoin cycle. And I would look a little bit more into some of the major altcoins, with the exception of the few that have appreciated greatly against Bitcoin over the past week or two. Now, in terms of some updates that I wanted to give that I know have been long overdue, one of them that you guys have constantly hounded me on, you've always wanted an update on, is Salt. You guys have been asking me for an update on Salt for quite some time. I bought this back at the beginning of December, made a video talking about why I bought a ton of Salt. And I bought it at 40,000 Satoshi, although I think the video didn't actually get uploaded or recorded until it was roughly 43 to 44,000 Satoshi. And that's roughly where we're trading now. And that's why I felt now would probably be a good time to provide an update at this point. I have sold completely out of Salt for a couple of reasons. Number one is because at this point, because I do think that the smaller altcoins are a little bit riskier at this point. I think Salt is a riskier trade at this stage in time. It doesn't have the same catalyst potential that it had when I originally bought it back in December. Back then, the excitement was that they were going to launch their loan platform, and they did in fact do that, and it went from 40,000 Satoshi back when I bought it all the way up to 110 or 120,000 Satoshi at peak. For those of you that didn't take profit at those levels, because I didn't mention it, I apologize, but it literally quadrupled. You could have sold a very small portion and did quite well based off of this trade. The big thing that trapped a lot of people with this was that there was an opportunity for arbitrage with the loans. You could have redeemed the Salt tokens at $27.50 if you were able to get a loan. And that was the major issue, is that most people weren't able to get a loan with the platform. There was simply more demand than there was supply. And in fact, they ended up cutting the loans at one point. I think they have reinstated them at this point, but it doesn't matter to me because the availability of the loans is still relatively low. They don't even offer them in the state that I live in. So at this point in time, personally, I would say that there's really no opportunity left here. So I think this is a good opportunity to sell out if you haven't sold out yet. Effectively, you break even in Satoshi levels, but if you took any profit back here, then it should have been a relatively profitable trade. But a lot of people have been asking me for updates on Salt for quite some time. So there you go. There's my update on Salt. And then the other one that I wanted to provide an update on, which I am amazed more people, in fact, practically nobody has hounded me on this. Everybody's hounded me on Salt. Nobody has ever hounded me so far on this particular cryptocurrency, which really surprises me because this has performed very, very poorly, and that is Polymath. So Polymath has effectively done nothing but go straight down since I made my recommendation for it at roughly 9,000 to 10,000 Satoshi. At the time, I said it was a terrible project, terrible investment, but I felt that it was an excellent trade. And the reason I felt that it was going to be an excellent trade was because of the greater fool theory, and since then it has done nothing but go down, so obviously I was nothing but a fool. I was the greater fool, right? Unfortunately, that happens at times, so I wanted to provide a brief update on this. I'm still holding it. I'm not going to be selling it. I still think that if we are moving into an altcoin cycle overall, this particular altcoin really hasn't appreciated all that much considering what other altcoins have done over the past 2 weeks or so. It has gone up, just not much at all overall. And I think that this is the exact type of cryptocurrency that if we do move into another serious bull cycle, this is the type of thing that's going to attract attention. It's the type of thing that attracts attention from what I would say are less sophisticated investors because it has a very big, strong sales pitch. I don't know if it's ever going to come back into prominence. It was so popular back when I made that video about it. People were talking about it all the time. I have not heard a single person talk about this anymore. So again, this has the chance of just going straight to zero. And if that happens, I'm prepared for it to do so. I have a small overall position in it. And so I just wanted to provide that update for anybody that was curious. I am willing to lose this position entirely. I have effectively forgotten about it, and I'm just going to sit on it until either it pumps tremendously, or if I feel like there's no steam left in it, I will probably provide an update and tell you when I would like to sell it. So just wanted to provide that update as well. Anyway, as usual, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you let me know your opinion on whether or not we're moving into an altcoin cycle or not. And as usual, make sure that you check out my Steemit if you would like to interact with me and support me. It's an easy way to do so. And there's a lot of higher quality comments on Steemit. So if you would like to read some of those, make sure that you check it out. Otherwise, as usual, leave me a like, comment, and subscription, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.